Hello, and welcome to a special edition of Up Close on METV. I'm Charles Clapsaddle, Station Manager for Manatee Educational Television, and it's my great pleasure to welcome today the Regional Chancellor for the University of South Florida, Sarasota-Manatee, Dr. Karen Holbrook. Dr. Holbrook, thank you for taking the time out of a very busy schedule to talk to us a little bit about USF Sarasota-Manatee.
Always a great pleasure to talk about our university.
Well, if I may, I'd like to tell our audience a little bit about you and your background before we begin. On December 14th, 2017, the University of South Florida System President, Dr. Judy Genshaft, named Dr. Karen Holbrook as the new Regional Chancellor of USF Sarasota-Manatee. Now, Dr. Holbrook most recently served as an Executive Vice President of USF Sarasota-Manatee and a Senior Advisor to President Genshaft. Now, prior to this position, she served as Interim President at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and after leaving the University of South Florida, where she was Senior Vice President for Research and Innovation. Then, as a Senior Vice President for Global Affairs and International Research. And before coming to USF, Dr. Holbrook served as president of the Ohio State University from 2002 to 2007. Now, her distinguished career also includes prominent leadership positions at the University of Georgia and the University of Florida. Now, Dr. Holbrook has enjoyed a very productive research career in the biomedical sciences and was recognized with a Merit Award from the National Institutes of Health. She's earned both her bachelor and master's degree in zoology at the University of Wisconsin-Madison and her PhD in biological structure at the University of Washington School of Medicine. Now, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. Dr. Holbrook, it's really a significant career that you've had, and Manatee and Sarasota are very fortunate to welcome you as the new Regional Chancellor.
Thank you. I feel very fortunate to be here. This is a very exciting place. We've got a great future. We have a great community. It's home. I love it here.
Well, one of the great things about this is that you're very familiar with this area and USF Sarasota-Manatee because you've been in this area for a period of time.
I have. Jim and I have had a home here for over 20 years. And I was at I retired from Ohio State and said I was going to come down, and I told my husband, I'll spend time with you, we'll travel, we'll do all those things. Then Dr. Genshaft called me and said, would you come fix research? And I said, sure. I'll come up for 6 months and fix research, and that, I discovered, meant finding something like $10 million in the research office that hadn't been collected over the years. So I said, but I'll come and do the easy things, or the hard things, so that you can recruit somebody who doesn't have to come in and do that. Well, I stayed 6 years after that and just kept going. Just love USF. It's a great place, and I've seen it come so far, and it's such a fun place to be because it's got a great can-do attitude.
And you know, here in Sarasota-Manatee, the campus itself, it's a beautiful campus. You know, it's filled with great faculty, great staff, but it is part of the big USF system, which is really significant. And I've heard Dr. Genshaft on many occasions, you know, very proudly talk about their research commitment over the years, and it is significant.
It's very significant. It has grown just almost exponentially over the years. It's gotten to almost, I think it's over $500 million now in research funding, which is really good. It ranks us up in the top echelon of universities with the NSF rankings. But as good as they are, so are we down here. We have an incredible faculty, and many of them do research. They are working very hard to get grants. We have our first Office of Research, and the person who's running that came from USF Tampa. And our faculty are really working very, very hard and doing wonderful things. We've got great research programs down here too, so we contribute to the whole.
And I want to talk a little bit about that, perhaps in a moment or two. But the one key thing, and Dr. Holbrook, if you could, who are the people at USF? Who are your students? Where do they come from? What's their age? Is people think of USF as that kind of tucked. And you've coined a phrase, which I believe will go down, is it's behind the trees.
Yep.
And tell us why you first of all you use that, and then talk a little bit about your student body.
Well, we started as we would bring people in from the community to look at things. They would often say, "What's behind the trees?" As you drive down 41, nobody knows that you're there necessarily, except they look at the sign and say USFSM. But everything is behind the trees. What's behind the trees? And that's what we've got to get out, is to let people know what's behind the trees, because it's a great educational institution with a wonderful curriculum, with a very personalized education, with a very different culture of supporting every single student that is there. And when you ask what kind of students do we have, first of all, I'm going to just categorize them as wonderful students. And we hear great things from people in the community who have them as interns as being outstanding students, and there are many, many stories to tell. But if you look at the demographics, we are different, but we're not a lot different from the national statistics. National statistics have an average age of students at 24 years, which is kind of surprising. You look at ours, our average age is 26.4, I think, or 26.8. So they're a little bit older. We have a lot of them who are first time in college. We have 84 students who right now who are veterans. But we have a lot of students that work. In fact, when we did our survey of the graduates in December, and we do this every December, we discovered that 90% of our students work between 10 and 30 plus hours a week. That's amazing.
On top of their schoolwork.
On top of their schoolwork. That's amazing. And yet they still graduate within the right framework of time. So we have really remarkable, remarkable students. And they come with their own stories, and they leave with more stories. So we're very, very proud of our student population.
And one of the key things that I think that attracts your over 2,100 students to USF Sarasota-Manatee is the number of programs, number of degrees that you have, but also your faculty as well. People look and they see and they say USF Sarasota-Manatee is a choice for us.
We love that. We want to be people's choice, and we want it to be a choice for the people in the region, but we also want it to be a choice for people coming from outside. Now, we'll get back to that of how we can make that happen.
Right.
But our faculty do care a lot about the students, and you will hear them say in Tampa, but you will hear the same thing on our campus, our number one priority is student success. Absolutely number one priority. And it isn't that we say it, it's that we believe it, and our faculty believe it, and everything they do shows that they do. So.
And I think that's an incredible emphasis that a university should put on student success. And I think one of the contributing factors to that is the ratio between faculty and students. And I believe it's and correct me if I'm wrong, it's a 13-to-1 ratio,
right. That's right.
which is phenomenal for a university to have that kind of intimate connection between faculty and student.
It's an amazing statistic. And the other thing that I think is very important is we have a persistence committee, and we have persistence advisors, so that when you come in, you don't get lost. And if you're not doing well, it isn't that you can hide that, because you're going to have a persistence advisor that's going to follow you to see how well are you doing and to keep tracking your programs, so that we want every student who comes into the university to get out of the university with a degree in hand. So it's very, very important to us.
And I think it's the first time I've heard of the persistence.
Yeah, I love it.
But I think that would be, very encouraging to students as well, because sometimes it can be overwhelming or it's not the right choice or whatever. But if you have somebody there at each step of the way, it can be something that's very rewarding to you as you continue your progress.
And for a lot of our students, they're first time in college, or they may be the first of their family to go to school, so that when they go home, they have the support, but they don't necessarily have the experience behind them. So it's very important to have these persistence advisors.
Well, one of the things that I think that USF Sarasota-Manatee really offers is such a wide variety of things as well. And one of the things that I think is just a wonderful program and degree that you're offering is your new cybersecurity. And you know, that's cutting edge. It's on the cusp of doing things because it's a really needed degree. Tell us about how one develops those programs, and what do you see on the horizon for other programs that might be in the works?
The cyber program, I think, is really important, and we have faculty who are very well prepared in that area. So we've taken our IT program and split it into a regular IT program and a cyber program. We've been developing the cyber program with our faculty alone, and we have about 5 faculty who are in this arena, who are developing the undergraduate degree, and we're starting to offer that. But we're also connected to companies, and we have companies right here in town. We have wonderful companies like Silent, I'll just mention one of them, but there are others that we want to partner with, and we do partner with. Abacode is another one. But this is obviously, as you know, this is a career that crosses almost every single profession and every single business out there. The number of hacks, the lack of security is so critically important that we have people prepared in that field. So this is very important to us.
And I think that's one of the degrees, one of the programs that you've developed, or USF Sarasota-Manatee has developed, that's cutting edge. It's a little bit ahead of the curve that really says that we're looking at workforce needs and we're developing programs and services that's going to respond to those needs.
That is so important too. We don't want our students to go out and say, now what do I do? We want our students to go out prepared for some kind of a career. And it may be that they have gotten well prepared by experiential learning through a research project or through a internship. We have lots and lots of internships with government, with hospitals, with companies, with other educational institutions, with all kinds of different places, even within our own institution. So we want our students to go out prepared. But we learned something the other night. We had a very interesting meeting with a number of CEOs in the community, and we learned one of the things they want us to spend a great deal of time on is helping our students understand entrepreneurship and getting engaged in entrepreneurship, because no matter what career you're in, your career is going to change and your interests are going to change, and you need to have that kind of structure and that kind of thinking in your life so that you can take it in a different direction or even in your own direction.
And so I think that's a really clever thing to talk about people, to say, listen, how can we instill into our students or through programs or resources that are available that sense of entrepreneurship? So let's say that you're a cybersecurity degree. How can you spin that into possible something that's going to work as a long-term business? But one of the things I've heard you talk about, and I've heard you talk about with a lot of pride, is your program in nursing and nursing outreach, about how people can get their certification that gets them into the nursing channel. So as they continue their efforts, they're already into that work-related substance.
Well, we have right now a program that partners with Tampa. And our students can go through a 4-year degree and then, if accepted into the nursing school, finish with a 1 year up in Tampa to get a nursing degree. Okay, that's great. We like it. But we also know that the nursing shortage in this area is enormous, as it is across the whole state, as it is across the nation. So we need to have a nursing program on campus, and we need to have a nursing program on campus that prepares our local students to become nurses and stay here. The problem is if they go somewhere else, you never know where they're going to end up. We need our hospitals to have more nurses. And so in the fall, we will be starting a pre-nursing program on campus. And then as the first 2 years are pre-nursing, years 3 and 4, we are planning and hoping that Tampa will bring faculty down here so that we have a 4-year nursing program on our campus. And that's very important to us. So we should enter our first class in the fall of pre-nurses.
It's very exciting.
It is exciting. And you know, the good thing is State College of Florida also has its nursing program, and I'm going to brag about them. They have the most phenomenal simulation lab.
We've been there.
I'm sure you have. It's absolutely incredible. We don't have that because we don't have a facility like that, but the hospitals we partner with do have them, and they're really quite willing to let us have our nurses out there. In fact, they want them.
And I would suggest also that, whatever nursing program SEF has and the extensiveness of that program, it would complement what, what USF is offering as well.
And we have been working with them. So we're not doing things in isolation, but the idea is that we will do different things to build what is so needed in the community. And we can come together to do a doctoral in nursing. And that would be a place where we'd actually connect. So we're talking.
And I think, which kind of leads me to this next question, is that USF is part, and I believe it's called the Cross College Alliance.
Right.
And again, I think that's gone through a couple of name changes as
It
well,
has.
but I do like the Cross College Alliance, which is SEF, University of South Florida, Sarasota-Manatee, New College, Ringling College of Art and Design, and I believe Eckerd is included.
I think Eckerd is going to be a little on the sidelines for a while, simply because it's so far away. It isn't as easy to come together, but we continue to talk to Eckerd.
Now tell us about that program and the role that USF Sarasota-Manatee will play in it.
I think that's a very important program, because if you look at what we do, State College of Florida, USF SM, Ringling, and New College, particularly, and then the Ringling New Museum and those pieces together, we all do something different.
Right.
So we don't compete, we complement, and that's a very important thing to have happen. So we're doing a number of things. We are helping students right now look at one place. Instead of looking at employers through one database, there are a couple of different databases that they can look at. We are bringing the different groups together. The student affairs groups are talking to each other. The development groups are talking to each other. And I met just this week, I had lunch with Dr. Feldman, who's their new provost. We walked out with 7 new ideas of things that we could do together. And the whole idea is, let's do things together, first of all, that benefit the community.
Right.
And that's one of the first things that we want to do. But also, let's look at what you have that we don't have, and we have you don't have, and let's exchange. Right. So that each of us grows stronger, because the idea is that we are preparing 18,000 students collectively among us. Right. But that's not the important thing. What are we preparing them for? How are we training them? And how can the businesses look at the skills that we provide these students with and say, these are the people we want in our workforce? Exactly. So it's really, really important.
And I think, the key word that you use there, which really underlines what this Cross-College Alliance is to complement one another. You're right, it's not a competition. Nope. It's not a competition, but it really does. If you look at all of these universities and all the educational opportunities in this area, it really is a university town. I mean,
it is.
How do we maintain those students to stay and live here, raise their families, and get into the workforce? I think that's a continuing effort by a lot of universities to continue to do that. And Workforce is working very closely with USF Sarasota-Manatee.
Absolutely.
Economic development is a key part of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's where our research pays off, that's where our students pay off. There are many different ways we can promote economic development. And believe me, we're working with EDC, with the chambers, with...
and they're very active.
Yeah.
They're very active.
This is a very active town.
Now, if I may, I want to take a little side trip right
Sure.
here and to talk about the legislature. Mm-hmm. The legislature, plays an important part in higher education. I would think that you're very involved with all of the legislature, both in the House and the Senate. And there's several bills now that are kind of winding their way through the legislature as it starts to wind down. And one of these, among these, is House Bill 423. And this is taking away accreditation. Individual accreditation from things, and it puts it all under one umbrella, which would be USF Tampa. First of all, there's a lot of misconceptions about why this is happening and what's happening. Give us your interpretation of that, Dr. Holbrook, and why it's perhaps a tempest in a teacup.
Well, I'm not sure I would agree with the last one, but it could be, depending on what your attitude is and what your personal perspective is and how you are impacted by it. That's the important thing. And I would call it one USF. And the goal is to make it one preeminent global research university, which is what USF Tampa is right now. And the idea is that it would all be back together again. I was there when we were one, before they all separated out, and now bringing them back to reunification. The idea of, when you read the original letters, and the original, not necessarily the legislation, but the letter that came from Representative Sprowls and Senator Brandis, the letter basically is positive in the sense that it says, right now, the regional campuses of USF do not have an opportunity to share in the preeminence money. We don't have an opportunity to have doctoral programs, and a number of things, and our students are really hampered in the sense, it doesn't say that in the letter, but that's one of the things that is the case. For our students to go to Tampa and to go to St. Petersburg, they've got to have a certain amount of residency, they've got to take courses, we lose them when they leave, we don't get to count them, so there's what's called the swirl as students go from one campus to the next, and some of us lose statistics on that as to what our graduation rate is. If we have 20 of our students go up to Tampa, then we have 20 fewer in terms of what we can count for graduation, although they do count in the system. So there are many things about this that are attractive. I'm sort of going from place to place, but as the legislation was written very generically, it's basically saying they would come together under a single accreditation and that there would be a committee that would make recommendations as to how to bring it back together again. And it also says that it will not harm any of the students who are in the pipeline right now. So it leaves a lot to be determined as to how this actually will work.
Right.
And if it passes, and I mean, I think we can assume it might. It got consensus vote at the Board of Governors last time. It's been through 2 committees now, education committees. So we're looking at it as, how can this make sense? And one of the things that you can look at is, what are the benefits for our students?
Right.
And the benefits for the students, I think, are very great. We have 40 degree programs. But if you look at USF as a whole, we have over 300 degree programs. That means our students can go into any one of these programs.
That's impressive.
In a rather seamless way if they have the ability to go from campus to campus. But it isn't going to be a burden for them to do that. So there are a number of things about it, and then you look at and say, but are we going to lose our identity and become just USF Tampa? No. I mean, that's what I say. But, I mean, we're all planning on, St. Pete is St. Pete. We are our
Sarasota-Manatee is
we
different.
are embedded in our community.
Very much so.
Very much so. And it's so important to us to be that and to be our unique self and do the things that are very important to us and keep those. So all of these things are yet to be determined. And, of course, people are sensitive to what might happen and what changes might take place. But we've said over and over, President Genschaft has said over and over, we will not go back to the way we were when we were all together. We have all evolved. Every one of us has evolved in new directions, and those are important to our community. So, our communities, all 3 of them. So we will go forward and hopefully with a very new and, I would hope, a very creative way of working together.
And I think that you'll find in the Sarasota-Manatee area, this community will rally around the fact that it is University of South Florida, Sarasota-Manatee, and you'll continue to have that support from a financial as well as a community involvement that this is indeed this area's university.
And we want it to be. We want it to be one of the universities in this area, but we want them to think of it. We don't want it behind the trees where you can't see what's going on. So our real goal is outreach to the community, to talk more about what we are, what we can do, and learn from them what kinds of things can be more helpful, most helpful.
And I think that's a key point that you brought up, that USF Sarasota-Manatee has been involved with the community for many, many years. I think your education department sends teachers to schools to help. You are very involved with working with nonprofits throughout the area to see how best it is a very community-minded institution.
Thank you for saying that. We like to think that, but we want to be even more so. I mean, I think it's terribly important that we reach out to K through 12, and we do through all kinds of programs, but we've got to keep those going because that's, in a way, how we're going to get a lot of our students. They come from the local area, and we need to get more students from minority populations. So our outreach to schools and what are accountability councils? These are our councils that from outside leaders in the minority and the Hispanic populations tell us is we do not start early enough. You can no longer say, let's go after the high school kids. You've got to say, let's go after the middle school kids and the elementary school kids. And I just learned the other day that Unidos Now has the most amazing programs.
It truly does.
For leaders
Truly
to
does.
come into school. And then those are now in the middle school, and they're even doing them in the elementary school.
And,
So
and if I
how
may say
great.
so, the University of South Florida, Sarasota-Manatee has been very supportive of Unitas Now. The graduation programs that they do are hosted at USF Sarasota-Manatee, and they feel that connection. And as a university, to have young people see not only the great campus, but also the outpouring of support coming from a university, it's invaluable.
Well, we love it. It's a wonderful relationship, and we just spoke with the executive director yesterday, I think. And you will appreciate this. We said, what else can we do? And I said, do you guys have videographers? And she said, no, we can't afford that. And I said, well, we do. So they're going to do their what is it called? It's their talent academy. It's called something, Leaders Academy. Leaders Academy has about 20 to 25 students, and when they graduate, they have no way of recording that. I said, we'll come help you.
We've recorded a few things for them in the past, but I have to tell you, it's a great organization, and that's just one of many that you're involved with.
Oh, it is.
And one of many, and I think also that, and please correct me, the University of South Florida, Sarasota, is always looking for new opportunities to expand their ability to help others throughout the community. And I think that's very important. I know of many organizations that have asked for support from USF Sarasota for a variety of things, and USF has always risen to that occasion.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. That's wonderful.
But as we move forward on this, and we only have a few minutes left, but I want to give a full thing. USF Sarasota-Manatee is, without a doubt, going to continue to be a great presence in this community for years and years to come. What do you see on the horizon? What would you like to see? In a perfect world, where do you see University of Sarasota-Manatee going forward?
Well, I can tell you in every single arena what we want. Continued student success, continued new programs and research, build our research enterprise, continued connection with the community and resources. Those are our 4 areas. But in our resource area, we've got to raise money. We've not had anybody at the helm until Lee Williams came along recently. So that's very important to us. But you can't just say we're going to raise money. We do Brunch on the Bay, and this will be our 25th year on Brunch on the Bay. And that money has gone to scholarships, but we have so many other needs. And I'll tell you my highest priority, we have 2 high priorities. One is our Science, Technology, and Innovation building. We cannot exist without a new facility that brings in our science education building. But we can't go out to the community and say, oh, we're going to have a nice new building with a lecture hall here, a lab here, and an office here.
Right.
We've got to go out with a building that says we're going to do studio teaching, we're going to build collision spaces, we're going to do interdisciplinarity, we're going to have an entrepreneurship center, we're going to build in a business program so that all these kids coming out with their science degrees can also have a certificate in business so that they can go out in the field and know what they're doing right off the bat. We want community space, we want maker space, so that K through 12 kids can come in and try their ideas, and so can our students. So we're going to have within the next 2 to 3 weeks a whole new plan so we can go out and say, this is the most exciting building in the whole world and you're going to want to give to it.
And I would suggest, Dr. Holbrook, too, with your background in science and technology and innovation, that is something that's clearly set on the horizon. We can't wait to see that take effect.
Good.
I think it's
Neither can
very
we.
important. But one of the other things that you talked about, and I'd like to have a few moments, is that continued student success. You've worked with the EDCs, you work with workforce development. What do you want the potential students and the students that are at USF now to know about the commitment and the focus that USF Sarasota-Manatee is going to continue to have for their success?
I think most of our students do know that, because when they come in, they get orientation and they hear all of the different ways, our tutoring center and all of the different ways that they can be successful and that somebody will follow them and care about their success. Now, I'm going to bring up one other thing about resources and student success, and that is that we desperately need a residence hall. Everybody knows that, because if we have a residence hall, we can be a destination university.
That's true.
We've got the right programs, we've got the right faculty, we've got the right environment, we've got the right community, but we don't have a place where we can recruit students from out of state or international students. And international students are very important these days. So with a residence hall, we can do all of those things. We can also do summer camps for K through 12 kids. We can do so many more things. So those are the two things, the STEM building and the residence hall. So those are, and the data show that students who live in residence halls are far more academically successful than are the students who do not, because the students in residence halls stay on campus, participate on campus, get much more engaged. The others go home and tend to do the things that they need to do.
And I must say, the USF Sarasota-Manatee campus is a beautiful campus.
It is.
Architecturally, it's stunning. It stands out. Once you get behind the trees to see it, it's a beautiful campus. It's very welcoming. It's student friendly to there in the whole area. And I think that whatever additions that will come in the future, the science technology lab or a residence hall, will add to that footprint that you continue to develop. And I think that is really something that's needed for USF Sarasota-Manatee to increase their presence, not only as a physical plant, but also within the programs and services and resources that you continue to offer. And hats off to you for highlighting the science and technology part of it, because I think that's very critical. Recently, Moat Marine, of which you have a partnership, is developing a new facility. It's going to be out of Nathan Benderson Park. And I guarantee you they're going to need sciences and technology people and mathematicians to help them in the years to come.
Absolutely.
So, Dr. Holbrook, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to come and take it. We look forward to a long relationship with USF. But one of the other things that really is important, I think it's a community-based thing, is your outreach where you bring programs in that are open to the community. You have coming up in a week or so a program on Cuba and the Caribbean, which I think is very valuable to this community. But you have other things on the horizon as well. That's a very important part of a university, to have that emphasis on greater conversations within a community.
I agree, and we like to bring in programs, as many as possible. In the same group, Cumberland Advisors, with the Atlanta Fed that is bringing in our Cuba program, will also be bringing in the financial literacy program for the second year in a row. That'll be, I'm going to say March 1st, it might be April 5th. Might be April 5th. It's either March or April 5th. I think it's March 5th. I don't know. Won't matter.
Find out.
It's coming up soon. But these are the kinds of programs that attract a lot of people. These are kinds of programs that people get to see what our campus is like. So as many of these as we can do, we certainly want to do. And we want to take some of our great faculty speakers out into the community in different venues to talk about, give something like a TEDx talk, talk about things. We have one faculty member who said, the new tax bill is really nothing more than trickle-down economics. But who understands trickle-down economics? And this is a program we could put on. We have another faculty member that does women terrorists. I mean, what an interesting topic. Who knows about that? He's from Turkey, and he's written a book. But, all kinds of very interesting things. Of course, climate change, everybody's interested in, but there are lots of topics, and we want to take that on the road, basically. And by on the road, I mean into different venues, into the community.
I think that'd be a wonderful opportunity to highlight not only the caliber of the faculty that you have, but also on issues that are important, throughout the community as well. Final word, Dr. Holbrook. If there was one thing that you would like to say to Manatee, Sarasota, about the importance and the significance of USF Sarasota-Manatee, well, what would that be?
I think the importance is sending out to our communities the very best prepared students. That's our product. That's what we produce more than anything else, and that's what we're the proudest of. So I want the community to know what a great resource they have here. They also have a resource in expertise if they want to come and ask questions and help. But our students are our product.
Dr. Holbrook, again,
Thank
thank
you
you very much for taking the time to do this. You know, your involvement and focus on how USF Sarasota-Manatee is going to be moving forward is going to be so important to these communities. And we salute you and welcome you
Thank
here.
you.
And anything that we can do on behalf of USF Sarasota-Manatee, all you have to do is pick up the phone, and we'll be happy to help you in any way that we can.
You already do. You do a fabulous job for us.
Well,
We're
thank you
very
very
pleased.
much.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on this very special edition of Up Close on METV. And I would encourage anyone to find out more about USF Sarasota-Manatee. Go to their website, take a tour of the campus, see what USF Sarasota-Manatee means to you. Thank you, and we'll see you next time on Up Close on METV.